All right, so welcome to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio, and today is Thursday, January the 28th, 2021, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you in the queue. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody, as we come back again into this most amazing developing conversation about first-century Aramaic forgiveness and all of the absolutely amazing gifts that it gives. And it boggles my mind when I look at how deeply this energy system called life was understood in the mind of this being Yeshua 2,000 years ago. And those who've popped in, between then and now, the level of comprehension that goes beyond there's an interesting metaphor in the book Jonathan Livingston Seagull. If you're not familiar with it, there's a cool video to watch on YouTube. Just put in Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and it was actually turned into a movie. There's some sweet music in it, but there's an interesting line where Jonathan Livingston Seagull has decided, and it's a perfect metaphor for giving up your non-human life and stepping into actual human life, but he decides that there's something more important than fighting for power in the flock and for fish heads on the beach. And he goes off to do that study and becomes outcast, because when he comes back and shares what he's discovered with those who are still fighting for fish heads on the beach and power in the flock, they're like, "Oh, you are outcast. You are a threat to us." And there's so many down through the ages that have stepped into the level of understanding where it's realized that all of the pursuits, the way they said in the ancient scriptures, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose the experience of his being, lose himself as the presence of love? Like, what good is it? Where does it get you? Because if you haven't awakened being before the event called death occurs, it's not going to wake up just because death occurs. Get all the stuff the world has to offer, and so what? And there's an interesting piece of information that Hippocrates offers, and recognizing the source of most of the trauma that we experience. And he says this: we become mad and delirious, and fears and terrors assail us. All these things we endure from the mind. He actually says the brain, but I'm interpreting it to be the function of the brain called the mind. And when you realize that, and you have a tool called forgiveness for removing content of the mind, makes a pretty awesome picture. Makes for a whole different pathway in life, and most of the world still fighting for fish heads on the beach and power in the flock. When who needs it? What's it for? And to step back into life, to really, truly step back into life. There's a really interesting TV series on Netflix that we've been watching in the evenings lately. And it's a true story based on the memoirs of a nurse who worked as a midwife in the East End of London back in the 50s. It's pretty well done, and you get to see the delivery of dozens of babies really up close. It's really powerful. But the most powerful thing about it is, and it basically goes through every trauma that you can have in life. The loss of a child, conflict in relationship, parents going to prison, parents abusing. It goes through all the craziness, but the whole thing is done with a bird's eye view from Rachma. And there's always a sweet twist in it. the lessons that can uplift people from fighting for fish heads on the beach and power in the flock. But the other night there was an interesting interaction between a woman who lost what was developing into and becoming the love of her life to an accident. And she's just in such grief. And there's a woman who's very deep in her suffering, and she's a survivor of the Holocaust. And she offers her a piece of advice for overcoming her grief. And she says, just keep living until you are alive again. Now, attrition, time, they say time heals all wounds. Well, that's absolutely false. It is not true. But what does happen is time allows the energetic patterns of the wounds to go quiet. The unfortunate thing is that when the energetic pattern of the wound goes quiet, it's taking a toll on physiology. It's creating our so-called physiological disease conditions. The essence of this work, the whole approach, the whole purpose of this work is to take everything that's gone quiet in you, based in any form of pain or trauma or hostility or fear, and allow you to access it and throw it out so the deteriorating influence of it is gone. And it may be things, that go back 10 generations in your bloodline that need to be accessed, things that have gone quiet, but as long as they're there energetically, impact everything in your world, your creative process, everything. Now, those things we call today those unconscious patterns. And it's interesting, they gave Freud, the Nobel Prize for discovering the unconscious. And we now know, having Aramaic texts available and an understanding of them, that Freud no more discovered the unconscious than fly in the air. Freud rediscovered it in this modern time. But if you go back to the Aramaic language, the whole functioning of the unconscious was embodied, was integrated right into the language. When they said, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life, that word heart would be our modern word unconscious. The Greeks didn't have an idea of it, and so weren't able to translate it correctly. It should be take care of the unconscious, for out of it are the issues in life. And what in essence is being said with that statement is, look into, access that which has gone silent in you and deal with it, for its energetic patterns ultimately, if it's of a disintegrative nature, will destroy your physiology, will destroy your mental processes, will destroy your emotional processes, and ultimately, quite literally, kill you. And the way that, it impacts, if you go back into the Aramaic, there's a suffix that when it's added to a word, indicates that something moving in the unconscious, something that's gone silent in you, impacts three things: your perception, your decisions, and your behaviors. When somebody says, well, I don't know why I did that, that was an unconscious influence. So in Aramaic, when they add the suffix O-O-T-A to a word, it means that whatever that word represents is an unconscious influence that is literally impacting and changing your perception, literally the world that you see, the world that your mind generates, your decisions, and the behaviors that you do. So if you don't know why you're doing something, it's because there's an uta influence. There's that unconscious influence, that information, that experience that's gone silent, but is still there as an energetic pattern impacting everything. Ultimately, what we're working to do with this work is to bring forward and bring to awareness all of those things that have gone silent. Come back into conscious relationship with them. And now that we are in conscious relationship, we can choose to forgive, we can choose to remove that information, that energy, that idea. But we won't be unconsciously driven by it anymore. And so a way of speaking about this whole body of work is that it is a way to take care of the unconscious so that your perceptions, decisions, and behaviors become conscious, come from volition rather than from old energetic dynamics that perhaps happened 5 generations ago. Coming out of that unconscious state. You know, there's a symbol of that story that goes way back into the ancient Aramaic scriptures, and you hear this story in the Old Testament about this group of people who wander in the desert for 40 years. And everybody thinks they were wandering around a hot, sandy place for 40 years. But obviously, if you knew anything about astronomy, which they did, it's 35 square miles. You could easily start following the sun and be out of there within a couple of days. They weren't lost in a 35 square mile area for 40 days. Or pardon me, for 40 years. But what they were talking about was the unconscious, the influences, the perceptions, decisions, and behaviors that came from parts of the mind that had gone silent and therefore were no longer in awareness. And, you know, if you read that passage in the scriptures, they offer the solution to that problem. And what had to happen to get out of the desert? They said the old generation had to die off. Now, people who think in terms of a material world tell you that, yeah, the old people couldn't go in and they had to die first. That's not what it's about at all. When they said the old generation had to die off, the root of the word generation is generare, it means cause. All of the old causes held in the mind, those things which had gone silent many, 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 many generations ago in some cases, had to come to awareness to be cleaned out. Because being creative beings, whatever energetic patterns move in us reflect as our creative process. If those patterns are unconscious, then our creative process is unconscious. We want to step out of that unconscious condition and move into a conscious creative process, which means that you must develop the skill and the ability to access that which has gone silent in you, and then act to remove it. Then the old generations, the old causes, gone from the unconscious, now you move into becoming a conscious creator. We actually do a whole a 2-hour video, 4-hour audio workshop called On Creating Consciously. Moving out of these unconscious influences, confronting the unconscious influences, removing the unconscious influences, and stepping up to become conscious creators. That's another method of talking about the work that we're doing, and a skill that has not, ever or rarely, if ever, been talked about, or people even conceive of it or think about it, but the skill we're inviting everyone to develop is the ability to really listen to and decode that which has gone silent within your bloodline, that which has gone silent and reflects out into your world as your creative process, and to see that the result of that process becomes a stimulus that takes you back to your own unconscious and opens and gives you the opportunity to work through it. In other words, life is going to kick you right in the limitation. If you've got no matter what I do, Michael, it always turns out this way. Guess what? There's something in you that's gone silent. Maybe in your early adult life, maybe in your childhood, maybe in your mother's life or your father's life, or your grandmother's or your grandfather's on either side, back generation after generation, somewhere in the bloodline, whatever that why is this happening to me again? And it doesn't matter what it is. No matter what I do, it always ends up this way. What life is telling you is that there's something that's gone silent in you. And it's time to develop the skill and the ability to access that which has gone silent in you and remove its influence from your life. Change the focus of your mind and everything changes. Develop the skill and the ability to access that which is in hiding in you, that which you perhaps have developed a life where you never want to look there. No, don't make me look. There's a wonderful film out there. We've talked about it before, and if you haven't seen it, it might be worth watching. It's called It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, and it ostensibly is about Mr. Rogers and his influence. But actually, it's not about Mr. Rogers. It's about a man who, without going into the story, meets Mr. Rogers, and Mr. Rogers goads him to look at his life. And the basic message this man gives back to Mr. Rogers, in fact, in one interview that he's doing, he's a magazine writer, one interview, he literally walks out of the room because it's like Mr. Rogers is goading him to look. He's like, don't make me look at the silent influences in my life. And the beauty of that film is you watch a man operate, you watch Mr. Rogers as he gently keeps moving this man in the direction of looking at what's been going on in his life, looking at the silent influences that he feels all the time that, I mean, literally produces his behavior. You know, he's so disliked that, when they were assigning people for him to go and interview, the only one who would interview with him was Mr. Rogers. His reputation was so bad. And the week before he goes to see Rogers, he's at his sister's wedding, and he ends up literally punching out his father. It's a true story. He literally punches out his father, and somebody punches him out. The unconscious influences, the unresolved rage and hatred within his life, and how that relates to his relationship with his power person. And you watch Mr. Rogers. I mean, and again, the movie is based on this writer's 10,000-word article that he wrote for Esquire magazine. He was supposed to write a 400-word or a 500-word heroes story. Esquire was, back in the 90s, were profiling heroes, American heroes, and Mr. Rogers was one of them. He was assigned to write a 500-word story. But Rogers is such a profound influence on this man's life. He takes him right-person dynamics, dealing with and moving him through the healing of his trauma around his father and changing totally his relationship with his infant son. I mean, just turning this man's life around, so powerful. But the basic message this guy gives Rogers at first is, don't make me look at those things which have gone silent in me. They're too painful. I don't want to deal with them. Well, if you're living in that world, please read my book, and you'll know why it's going to happen to you again and again and again. And I mean, I've talked to people at, 65 years of age, 70 years of age. It's like, why does it always, how is this possible? I've left those relationships. I've left the town I was in. I left the country I was in. How is it possible that it's happening again? Because we are creators. And if we never deal with the things that have gone silent in us, then we're going to say, because of its influence, why is this happening to me again? Perception, decisions, and behaviors will be driven by that unconscious data and take us back to the same experience over and over and over again until we acquire the tools with which to enter into the unconscious consciously. And the primary tool for that is the tool of forgiveness. The Greeks told us this really important process of forgiveness was about how somebody else is to blame for what's happening in your life, and all you have to do is let them off the hook, and then everything will be okay. Well, you can let 1 million people off the hook, and 1 million times you're going to come back to me and say, Michael, why is this happening to me again? Until you are willing to come into conscious relationship with those influences that have gone silent in you, they're going to run your life. It's just how the system works. When you choose to take that genius tool of forgiveness that he developed 2,000 years ago and apply it over time, you develop the skill and the ability to enter into conscious relationship with your unconscious. And no longer do those unconscious influences drive you from the hidden part of your mind. No longer do you hold those as quote-unquote uta influences, but you bring them to conscious awareness. You let go of their energetic patterns, and guess what happens? The why is this happening to me again goes away. And you get to create your life consciously. And I'm talking about every arena of your life. I'm talking about your relationships. I'm talking about your finances. I'm talking about your satisfaction in life. I'm talking about your aliveness, your joy, your creativity, your love life, your financial life. We're talking about all of it. That's why 2,000 years ago, it was so profoundly said, seek ye first. And it wasn't, heaven in the sense of the religion, what the religions have told us about this place with golden paved streets and the guy with the long beard. It's not about that. But seek ye first your relationship with love, your true being as love. Seek out relationship with love, and then all other things will be made unto you. Work out of the hostilities and fears that have gone silent in you, and you condemn yourself to the repeating cycles over and over and over again, ad nauseum. And people who've done that time after time tend to live in rage and trauma. You can go out and see them on the streets any day of the week these days. And you watch them, and they're willing to talk about patriotism, but they'll take a flag and beat a policeman with it. And they'll talk about law and order and think that that's rational. That's the unconscious operating. And it's time for us. Now, how are we going to resolve this? We're going to resolve this when we hit a critical mass of people who develop the skill and the ability to uncover those Uta brain cells, to deal with them, to process through them, and to really, truly fill every cell within the structure with the active presence of love, our true purpose. That's what was called the kingdom of heaven. Seek that first, then everything else gets handled. Try to get what you want to handle first and not do that, and you're going to end up with the why is this happening to me again? I feel so honored that the universe reserved that title for me. So in essence, that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to support. They are the skills we're here to develop personally and to support every other mind, heart, and being on the planet enhanced in developing those skills and to live consciously. So we're honored that you're here to be a listening ear and to pass this information on. If any particular show strikes you as being meaningful, when the show's complete, there's an archive of it. Go to our website, whyagain.org. You'll see a microphone in the middle of the page. Click the microphone, drill down, and you'll see the archives day by day. So if there's any particular show that's important that you feel is more powerful than others for you, you can go back and listen to them. You can save them on your computer. You can attach them to an email or a text and send the link to someone else to give a listen. And so, Miss Jeanie, do we have anything happening in the chat room or anybody in the phone queue with a hand up?
We have a good crowd in the chat room. I do have a hand up, and it is awesome. Ellen, area code 484. You're on the air.
Welcome back, young lady.
Hi. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I have a question for you in regards to what you were just talking about, the unconscious.
Right.
Could another word for that be the inner child?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, the influences that have gone silent to come back into relationship with that child's voice, or that time in your life where as a child there were things that were too painful to be dealt with and were forced to go silent, to come back into relationship with that. Yes, absolutely. That would be another way of speaking about the unconscious.
Okay, great. Because as I mentioned to you yesterday, I suddenly started becoming aware of the child in me. I mean, she started just, coming through. I mean, I started talking like her, and I started, I just started noticing that she was crying for my attention. And so now I'm wondering if just because now that I'm aware that she's been crying for my attention, I have been, intentionally spending time giving her that attention. And I am wondering if that in itself can help release some of these repressed emotions that are within me. Okay, because I had this experience yesterday after I got off the phone with you. I went for a walk, and I was feeling much calmer after we talked. And because prior, I mean, I felt like I was getting ready to erupt. And so I went on a walk, and I ran into a woman that I just happened to run into her. Actually, yesterday was the second time this week. I hadn't seen her in a couple years, and she she wanted some guidance. And we talked for a few minutes, and then she drew this picture on her chest, and she called it a mountain. But as soon as I saw her, what she was drawing, it looked like a volcano to me, and she just started thanking me so tremendously that she feels as if what I told her just lifted this whole mountain top off.
Sweet.
And
that's
I thought,
awesome.
Wow. I thought, I kind of feel that way too. And so I thought, maybe that's what she's reflecting to me, that this did kind of like, I don't know how to put it. I just kind of got relieved of this energy that I felt was getting ready to erupt. And so I didn't know.
That's exactly what we're here for.
Okay, well, because then I had the thought, well, maybe I just like pushed it back down again, and But then I thought, well, but the fact that she was like, the fact that she showed that to me was kind of like my clue that, oh, okay,
nice
maybe
feedback.
It's yes. So that was really my question, because I thought, is it possible because I thought, oh, I'm going to have to feel all this. I'm going to have to go through all of that feeling in order to get the relief. But that's not what happened. It just seemed to go, and I thought, well, maybe it's because I've just been focusing attention there.
Well, and when love is present,
we had.
Yeah, when love is present and trauma starts to move, the trauma is in the process of dissolving. Have you seen the movie that I spoke about, It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood?
Yes, I just saw it about, maybe a month ago.
So it would be fun for you to go back with these new eyes, these new brain cells, go back and watch it again and watch what Mr. Rogers does. And basically what he does is he elicits, remember the scene where he asked him about his childhood toy? He's asking him to go back to his childhood, go back to and touch into that which has gone silent in him. And then through him, he impacts his father and the traumatic relationship he's had with his father. And his whole life turns around. It's exactly, watch that movie again and you see our conversation yesterday and the process you're going through, and that movie is just an extended visual experience of exactly what we're talking about.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And it's a gift
I felt
we can
so
give
much
each
better.
other.
Pardon me?
I say it's a gift we can give each other, as you did yesterday. How cool that you just turned around and passed it on. That's exactly what we're here for.
Yeah, it's like talking with you, like, it kind of removed all that from me, and then me talking with her had the same experience, effect on her. Yeah, it's really, really amazing. Okay.
What
well,
we're
that
here
was
for.
my question. Thank you so much.
Sweet. Nice
so much.
work. That's awesome. Keep passing it on.
Okay.
All right. And as questions develop, new pieces of the puzzle come up, please call us and keep us in the loop. We're delighted to be here to support you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ellen. Take care. Blessings.
Blessings.
And thank you to Miss Susan for having that Zoom support group. There are 4 different Zoom support groups now per week, or 5, Jeanie? You can go to the website, whyagain.org, and you'll see where those support groups when, and they're Zoom, so there are links to each of them that you can go visit and be part of a live support group of people working with these tools with each other. Dr. Tim has 1 or 2 going a week now, I think, and then Susan has 1, Urate has 1, Dr. Andraki and Claudia have 1 out in Las Vegas area, out in Pahrump, Nevada. So, and you're welcome to join any of those groups anytime, as well as, this show is just about putting that information out and that support.
And I just turned Susan's microphone on, and I'm putting a link in the notes to where people can go and find the Zoom information for all of those support groups.
Sweet.
Susan, you're back on?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Hey there, young lady. How are you?
I'm okay, and I do have a question as usual. But Dr. Tim has been.
Your questions. You haven't been around for a while.
Well, I've been around actually. I've just been. I guess I've been quieter on your show and more noisy on Dr. Tim's.
Oh, good. Okay.
You mentioned your back, and I'm so interested because I'm dealing with a sore arm, and Dr. Tim worked with me some yesterday, and I realized my arm is just I can't tell whether the arm is. Anyway, there are lots of meanings to me about the fact that this arm, after 3 years of having fallen on black ice, still is compromised, can't reach all the way up. There's pain in certain positions. And I've thought, well, maybe I exacerbated some osteopenia that I've had in my bones, being my age and so forth. And so I have thoughts and beliefs about all that. But when I began doing worksheets on the arm, it was a hydra. And even just doing the worksheets and breathing into the arm and letting the arm, and I find I'm holding tension in that arm. Even when I'm in the avicen, I've been holding it. Mm-hmm. If I sit beside the avicen, and the avicen, it's my left arm, I find I'm holding it. So I've changed positions. I lie down now and stick it in there, and the arm is completely relaxed when I lie down. But in the mornings, I do it 3 times a day if I'm good. Most days I do 3 times. Morning at about 4 o'clock, got the arm in there, and I'm sitting up doing my worksheets. That's my morning meditation.
Right.
But
Perfect.
The arm is tense. If I'm sitting up writing, I've got to train it. So much is being held in that arm. And I won't go into all the connections and things, but yesterday, after doing those 3 worksheets, this morning, after doing those 3 worksheets, I have better range of motion, less pain, but there is a certain amount of clicking and snapping that goes on in the shoulder and in certain positions. It still doesn't feel right. When I teach my Pilates class, I yell at my students and say, watch this arm, not this one. This one isn't doing it right. And I would love to get the whole arm back, but I have this belief that it's too late. I've heard it too much. It's not going to happen.
Well, that'd be a good lie to throw away.
I love that that's a good lie to throw away. So I was thinking, what's Dr. Ryce doing about his back? You know, you seem to be rejoicing in the fact that you're doing another layer and you've got this challenge and you welcome the pain. I'm really not quite there. I admire you for that. And backs are so much of a big deal. That's another thing I'm telling myself. They're much harder to deal with than arms. So talk if you have something.
My first input would be is when you're sitting up, you're doing those worksheets and you're noticing tension in your arm. I have this sneaking suspicion that a lot of the tension isn't in your arm at all. It's in different parts of your body that are cooperating with protection of your arm. So my invitation would be to go ahead and sit up and be in that position and pay attention to where there's tension referred throughout your body. It might be a foot. It might be in the buttocks. It might be in the shoulder, you know. Just really pay attention. And I suspect you're going to find that a significant amount of the tension that your arm seems to be dealing with is actually referred tension from other parts of your structure. Because when, you know, like that fall type of thing, the whole body experiences a fall. And it happens, you know, as a hologram, energetically, when something like that occurs. And where the significant injury is, we tend to pay attention and let go of the rest. I suspect if you allow yourself to sit up with your hand in the avicen, notice the tension in your arm, and then pay attention to where else your structure is stressed, that as you let go of that, the tension's going to disappear from your arm. And the things that are not as significantly injured as the broken bones and such in your arm will start to become apparent to you. And as you let go of them, the referred tension in the arm will probably tend to start to melt and disappear, and you'll experience healing on a whole other level throughout your whole structure.
I started going to a man who was highly recommended as a chiropractor, but a gentle one. I went to see him, and he said, well, that was my training, and I can do all that stuff. But he said, I work actually as an energy person, and he did an evaluation and took some pictures and showed me how I'm in pretty good shape, but I'm not, one shoulder's a little higher than the other, my chin's jutting too far forward, all these different things. And then he put me on the table, and he hardly touched me. He'd touch here and there, across the body, balancing things. And he said, just bear with me. You're going to need about 12 sessions of this to start really noticing things. It may be less, but don't get discouraged right away or anything like that. I don't know how he worded it. It was very positively. Anyway, I'm going to work with him for a while.
Awesome.
Yeah, he knows about the Course in Miracles and told him about the avicen. He knows about the beamer. And he said, oh, yeah, I've never used one, but I know about the beamer, and I've heard good things. He said, well, this is like a beamer on steroids or something. But he said, okay, he would look it up. And I couldn't really explain well enough what the beamer does, but I said it gets the blood warmed and flowing, and one hand is in there, and you can go about other things. And anyway, he's getting the information for it. But I'm sort of going off track, but it's all related to trying to approach this with more consciousness. This arm, I've been unconscious about it. I've been saying, well, it hurts and I can't do this or that, but I haven't really spent time listening to my arm and breathing into it. And I have a lot of hope, and I'm figuring that's what you're doing with your back, or maybe something much more sophisticated, which, if it's true, you better tell. I want to hear about it.
I'll keep you posted. Well, and I'm doing exactly what I'm suggesting you do, is to listen to your whole body, not just the place where the pain seems to be expressing. And you'll find that, especially with something like a fall, there's a whole relationship there, and it will tend to open and let go. And it sounds like you found a perfect chiropractor who's doing exactly that with the balancing and touching that he's doing. He's taking you to those other referred parts, and as the whole, layer of energetic impact that came from the fall is released, everything will tend to improve in your experience. And for me, yesterday, as I shared, I was moving into a healing crisis, and I had lived with back pain literally all of my life until about, Jeanie looked it up, and it was 11 years ago that we did orthobiotomy, and that was the last of my back pain until the day before yesterday when this issue opened up. And, by about, 3 o'clock yesterday, I was back 40 years in back pain where I could hardly walk, and dealing with that energy. And actually had Jeanie do a little more work on me this morning, and now I'm at the point where I may be at about 1/10 of that, and I can see the end of it, of that energy, that I opened up the other morning, moving through and being finished with it. So that's what I'm doing, paying attention to it.
Paying attention, and is it always connected with emotional work or things that have been not in your immediate consciousness? You're discovering things, you're remembering things. Is it like that?
Well, it was kind of interesting because Jeanie did a little bit of work on me this morning again, and she was asking about, the emotional aspect of it. The thing that had come up was this agreement that I'd entered into, and it was something that just basically floated up out of my low back, out of my pelvis, was this awareness that I had gone into agreement with my father that it was okay to hurt me. It's an issue, dealing with those issues around Dad and being beaten many times is something that I have worked with for years. And so there so far in processing this, there's been no emotional aspect to it. It was just and I was sharing with Jeanie this morning, it's just kind of, it's like a new way of opening for me in my experience, and it's hard for me to even talk about because it was almost visual and yet auditory. It was literally a statement that was stored in my pelvis that came forward, and it was almost like, and I can't say it was visual because I didn't see anything, but there was almost a visual component to it. It was a new way for me to experience, and I'm taking it as another level of opening of my intuition. It was a new way for me to experience an energy that had been stored in my tissue structure. And there has been no uncovering of the emotion with it as yet, perhaps because I've dealt with a lot of that in the past, and maybe there's a piece of emotion to come yet, but so far, not. It's just been, at this point, it's been pure physiological process, and so I'm probably down now to about 20% of the intensity that I was at yesterday afternoon with processing through that.
Wow.
And
Michael,
so that's kind of what I've done. Yes, Jeanie.
And this morning when I was working on your back, you said you felt it respond in your neck.
Yes. Yeah, my neck is opening on another level as well. There's a definite change in what seemed to be an injury in my neck, but as my pelvis is shifting, I'm feeling that shift in my neck as well. Yeah.
Michael, there was some crackling going on for a minute there, and I missed some words. You started to say there was no emotional component. It was, and then what I heard again was physiological. I heard most of the words, but I didn't understand what you were trying to say. Can you backtrack?
Sure. Yeah. So the experience of this that's come forward has been a mental awareness of this agreement that I went into with my father. And Jeanie actually quizzed me this morning on, because back pain, we often put out the thought that comes from Dr. Sarno that back pain is unconscious rage. And I think the rage component of it, I've dealt with in past, work that I've done. And so that seems to be resolved, and there's none of it there. And, I'm certainly willing, if it opens up, if there's any more of an emotional component. But my sense is that perhaps I've processed through most of the emotional component, and now it's time to just deal with the energy of, the awareness that I came to of having gone into that agreement with my father and rescinded the agreement. Like, okay, Dad, that's the end of that one, and I'm letting go of it. And so now I'm experiencing it, processing through my physiology.
When you say visual, are you picturing your dad hitting you, or what's the visual?
No, as I say, with this, the awareness that came of this thought, I'm searching for ways to speak of it because I don't have words for it. So I can only kind of speak about it, and maybe we'll develop a new language for this way of intuition coming in. But if I were to describe the arrival of the awareness of the thought, and the thought specifically was, I gave my father permission to hurt me. And it was like that was a thought that was stored in my pelvis. I have been totally oblivious to, no awareness of it in any way, shape, or form. And so when that opened, as Jeanie was working on me a couple of mornings ago, it was almost like an energetic pattern I could see that floated up from my pelvis to the middle part of my lower spine. It was almost visual. It wasn't, but it was like there was a sense of it. And again, I don't have words to describe it, so I'm kind of dancing around the edge of it. I became aware of the content of the thought, and the way it was moving was something I've never experienced for and don't have words for at this moment.
And Michael,
but I became very aware of it.
Yeah. Was this the inability to find the words? I can understand that no matter what age you are when the trauma hit, but B, that this was happening to you before you had words, before you were talking?
Well, it may well have been, but it came forward. The awareness of it came forward literally as words. I mean, it was almost like the words were written and floated up, literally floated up from my pelvis into awareness. And as I say, almost as though they were written, because there really wasn't, I can't say that I saw it, but there was this sense of seeing the energy pattern, seeing it, and almost like it was in writing, and becoming aware of that thought, and that thought that I gave him permission, went into agreement with him to allow this. And becoming aware of that, I was willing to confront it and say, enough, I now rescind that agreement, and I'm ready to let go of this. And so the last 2 days have been significant movement of energy in my spine.
This has a real impact on other people, because I'm sure that every child who is hit gives permission. They think this is the right thing to be doing to me. Don't you think they think that?
Well, that's certainly the implied message of the world, of the authority. If we look at the God, which is the parent, and the parent, oftentimes the language that goes with something like that is, well, I'm only doing this for your own good. That's, I can remember the line of, this hurts me more than it hurts you. It's like, right, yeah, sure. And so I think there is a buying in. It just, for me, yesterday, it was the first time I became aware of my being complicit in receiving that energy.
Right, and we are. I've had many thoughts about wishing that I had found the riding crop and gotten rid of it, or found the riding crop, held it up in front of my mother and said, you shouldn't be doing this to us. But there was no consciousness of that. There was just, I knew where the riding crop was. I would feel it sometimes when she wasn't home. I'd stick my hand there, it had a life of its own. I feel it because I knew I was going to get it again, and it was allowed to be there. And so I think what you're tapping in on is a universal compliance that children have. They don't have the capacity to step away, to separate themselves enough to make a judgment that's different from the parent's judgment. But to actually feel that you gave your father permission, that is amazing.
It was pretty interesting. And interestingly enough, as I say, it was without it, there was no emotion attached to it whatsoever. It was just like this intellectual awareness of, oh my God, I agreed with this. I went into agreement.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how crazy is that?
I know, it is. It's none of my business, but did this go on for years when you were quite big, or was this when you were a little person, or?
It was mostly as a little person. I don't remember exactly what age. You know, besides the belt, the other thing he liked to do was a clip in the ear, and that would be a hit in the head. And,
How?
I don't. Pardon me?
Ow.
Yeah, ow. Ow is the word. Yeah, yeah. His words were a clip in the ear, and it would be the back of his hand across the side of the head.
Ouch. Sorry, Michael.
No, I'm with it, and and when I look back, and I realize the life he lived and went through, it opens a space of compassion for me, and a space of being able to embrace him and his pain. The place where I really opened up and recalled some of the stories that he told me and realized the world he came up in was when I saw the movie The Streets of New York. If you've seen that one. If you haven't.
No.
Dig it up and have a look, The Streets of New York. And that's kind of what the streets of Glasgow, Scotland were like, where he was raised. And pretty crazy, pretty intense. And, I got a mild dose of it. It was pretty intense for me too, but relatively speaking, it was mild. And I realized that it's about healing those patterns and allowing those voices that have gone silent in us to come forward to awareness and process through them. And of course, along with them come the physiological effects of healing and the deep appreciation for these tools that were developed so long ago and handed off to us.
Yeah, the tools are amazing. And I have to say, I don't know how you connected what you read in the Kabur's manuscripts and understood, translated that into a worksheet that is beyond. It's just.
It was a development. I mean, you're looking at worksheet version at least 3017. I mean, there were days when I would make 5 major changes to the worksheet, testing and trying out what makes this workable.
Yeah. And then because you're on the road, cramming it all into one page. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks.
It's kind of nice with the new codependent or the power person worksheet that we're using in the intensive. It's kind of nice not to be cramming it. It's a 7-page thing, and it's okay. It definitely makes life easier.
It does. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll hold the space for those awarenesses to come for what's going on with your arm and letting those open. And if your chiropractor friend would like to have a conversation about both the Beamer and the Avison, I'd be happy to have a conversation with them. And if you'd like to try one out, I'll arrange to get one to them to try. If you'll commit to use it with people and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Wow, that's a great idea. Sure.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. Well, anything else on your mind, young lady?
Oh, can you do a quick definition of perfect love? That's a large order, I guess.
No, actually, it's fairly compact. From the Aramaic, when they said perfect love casts out fear, in essence, what they were saying is if you had the right conditions in your mind could not construct a fear-based perception. And the conditions that were required to do that were the condition of Rachma, that filter and gateway over the frontal lobes of the brain, intentions, and filter Kuba over the back of the brain, over the perceptual part of the brain, that was a gateway that allowed only brain cells that were keyed to love to fire in forming your perceptual construct. So when they said perfect love casts out fear, what they could have been saying is Rachma and Kuba will disable your mind's ability to produce a fear-based construct.
Whoa.
And so when I am in the practice of maintaining Rachma and Kuba, and I stand in a place where yesterday I would have been in fear and trembling, when those filters are active and open, fear and trembling has to dissolve. It can't stay integrated.
Wow, this is a whole huge discussion. Oh my goodness. I can't get there in my day-to-day life except when I'm writing music or making silly cutouts or drawing, when my mind disappears, in other words, and then I have this feeling of expansion as if I'm going to live forever. It's not a big deal. It's just I have no fear during that time. But then the fear comes back, and it morphs into different issues. My son just took a leave of absence from his medical practice, for instance, because he is exhausted, totally burned out. And so I have had fear about that. I have been breathing through it. I've been telling myself to just allow him to do what he needs to do, feel proud of him for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, hold the space. And notice that you're getting those moments of reprieve. We're down to just a few seconds. Notice you're getting those moments of reprieve where you are able to embrace everything in conscious, active, present love. And I hear that as your being is awakening and opening. And then you've got to go back and bring carbon-based memory along with you, and that's where the work is.
Yep.
You've got the experience
totally
now.
Well put.
Now bring carbon-based memory into the game and bring it into alignment with what you know is true. That's the work. That's another way of expressing what this work is about.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Perfect.
All right. Well, we're down to the last few seconds, so I'm just going to say, everybody, have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift to give the world. You deserve it. The world needs it. Let's go for it. Blessings. Thank you.